paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, it's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
Well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Okay, here goes. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Secret GP. Here we are out in New York. We've got some mask mandates. If you don't wear a mask, well, we'll let you play. You're just going to get a game loss. We've got a 10K, 60-ish people signed up. Therefore, it's now a 1K. Welcome to the Secret GP, everybody.
Imagine taking COVID at home and fucking killing your 4-year-old kid, but it's okay because the guy got a game loss. Like, for real, though.
Yeah, for those who don't know, everybody, welcome into Brainstorm Brewery. We're going to start this week talking about the hottest event in Magic, the Secret GP that went on. We're not going to name and shame the store here. However, a tournament organizer on the East Coast decided to put together an event. They suggested that they were going to get 1,600 people for the main event. They were going to be firing off side events. So they had a playmat. They had big prize pools. They had all of this. And in the end, the Secret GP, which was just barely advertised on Facebook and clearly not by Magic-centric people doing the advertising, it fired off with about 60 people. They cut from 2 days down to 1 day, became a 1K. And I believe if you got fifth place, so if you made the top 8 and got fifth place, you got $80 of store credit in exchange for your $85 cash entry fee.
Yeah.
So in case you're curious how live events are going, that's the bar.
So the funny part about that is that everybody used the hashtag SecretGP as if it's this like underground cage fighting, like Fight Club-esque thing that you weren't supposed to talk about. But like, it was a secret just because the advertising was poor. Like nobody tried to hide the event. They wanted it to be the big first in-person event since all the shutdowns. They wanted it to be a Magic Fest level of circus and fireworks and all that stuff.
More people watch the EDH Recast play on Wednesday than were at that GP.
They wanted to be the first back, I guess. They had room at a convention center rented. Like, I'm not talking they have a ballroom at a hotel. They had room inside a convention center. They had a ball
That's
pit.
it.
That's
the tweet.
That's the tweet. It seemed like judges kind of saved the event. I guess some of the judges were local. There's a couple good Twitter threads about it.
You play in a ballroom. I play in a ball pit. We are not the same.
The judges, I guess, helped enforce the social. They had this massive space, but then they didn't actually separate.
It was all
out
for
their
social distancing.
Spaces,
oh, nope, never mind.
Nope, just kidding. We had tons of open space. But hey, you know what? At least they had some masks. But that event happened. That's really all there is to say about
at least 90% of the people wore masks, which
that's the bar. It was low, but it happened.
And if you haven't seen this playmat featuring all kinds of characters that are very likely copyrighted and not supposed to be on a playmat, you can go check out this playmat.
Apparently somebody...
We're not going to sit here and shit on the playmat because it's the best playmat I've ever seen. And
apparently a friend of a friend of a friend of mine did some digging, and the character that's on the mat that you can't recognize is apparently from Cardfight Vanguard.
Sure.
So,
yep. For those who don't know, there's an angry Pikachu here. There's a Yu-Gi-Oh. There's a Yugi. There's a DBZ. We gotta.
There's a DBZ.
I would cut him off. Don't let him explain that it's Goku. So like it's one of the Dragon Balls. Corbin, who's probably seen all of Dragon Ball Z multiple times, just is like there's a Dragon Ball.
There's a whole Yu-Gi-Oh. There's a whole DBZ.
There's a whole Pokemon. That one works.
There's
a full Pikachu. Yeah.
Is that one of them Sailor Moons?
Corbin was the head of advertising for this event, by the way.
Yeah. You know, I might have actually guessed Sailor Moon if you hadn't told me. Is that from the Sailor Moon card game? It's a thing. So I got to give them credit for trying to have an event. I hope that the next event is
No, what
you don't have to give them credit for doing
what's
an
the
event.
quote, Jason, that we just mentioned earlier?
I was on Rick and Morty is like, at least I tried, Rick. Shitting the bed is not better than not shitting the bed. Okay? They shit the bed. And it's like, oh, we tried and shit the bed. That's not better than just not shitting the bed and not having an event you only tell 40 people about. So
yeah,
we do not have to give them credit. They should not have tried. And if they were going to do it, they should have tried harder.
It seems like they had a Facebook post with the extent of their advertising. They were not very responsive. But here was my favorite part.
We got more people to watch our live AMA with a Facebook post.
Yep. So if you went to the store and tried to sell cards at this event, they were taking every single card in your binder, scanning it, and then putting it into a case. Or a sleeve, rather. Every single card that someone brought to the table. So this is not your GP experience where you have buyers like DJ sitting there going through your binder lightning speed.
Whenever they put it to make an offer, or after they bought it, they put it in a sleeve? I don't understand. When did they put the card in the sleeve?
I believe after they bought it. Yes, they were buying, scanning, putting them in sleeves, all there at the table before the next person could go. So
was there one buyer?
I think there were two. I saw a picture. It looked like there were a couple, but there were very long lines, which is impressive.
There was no one there.
Exactly. And now you understand exactly
it's
how
that point where
slow it was.
you get in the line and you don't know what the line's for, so you're like, this is the concession stand, right? Like, I think I saw a guy walk away with a hot dog. Oh, nope, that's just a modern deck.
Why did you laugh at that, Corbin?
Because, Jason,
why did you laugh at that hot dog joke?
Because I know the feels of sitting in a line. Man. Come on, man. You never sat in a convention center in a long line, seen somebody walk by with terrible food and been like, man, that seems so good because I'm in this stupid line.
I paid $2.50 plus tax for one banana.
It's one banana, Michael. What could it cost? $2.50 plus tax?
I mean, what do you think is your worst GP experience that comes anywhere close to that, DJ?
Like the event itself, or just like my experience traveling and back? Because
well, maybe not like, oh, the event was slow.
His car got crushed into a cube, so it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, like my GP horror story is like my car sliding down an ice driveway, me smashing my elbow, getting out of it, and then leaving my car in another country as I book a one-way flight back. So like. That's up to, which it was 100% worth it, by the way.
Didn't you crush your house keys? Were your house keys?
Yes, they were. That is a detail I don't often remember to put in, but yes, my apartment keys were there, and so was my Cloud9 lanyard.
I gotta say that one is pretty bad. That is not the best.
I spent the night in Atlanta airport on the last GP before shutdown, and then
at least there's a Buffalo Wild Wings at that one.
Not in the terminal I was in.
Unlucky.
Not that I would have gone to it either way, but I mean, and then I got to that GP like Friday at noon after having zero sleep and worked that event.
Yeah.
In terms of GP horror stories, I think most of us were probably at. I don't know if Jason was at Charlotte. There was a GP Charlotte in like 2016. That was the one that like crashed while SCG was running it because the power went out.
There were actually there were a couple bad ones. The power went out in Miami. I know that the lights turned off one time at GP Miami. I remember I went and played mini golf.
What was the one they were calling GP Hoth? Was that like New
Omaha?
York or something?
That was Omaha.
Omaha.
Yeah.
Oh no! My worst actual at the event was it was what was the Midwest city? There's so many of them. There's just so many of them.
True.
GP Memphis, I believe, was GP Jackhammer. That was the one where there was actual construction going on directly beneath us. Not us as the vendor booth, but directly beneath the convention center floor. And there was a jackhammer going on, and one of my friends, Edwin, he recorded on his phone the decibel level. It was like over 130 something decibels, which is not
130.
Whatever it wasn't good for your ears. Maybe it was like 200 or something. Whatever the bad
200.
I don't remember.
Isn't the space shuttle taking off like 140 decibels?
I think so.
Like the decibel scale is logarithmic.
I think it was 120. I don't know. Point aside, CFB on Saturday. No, it was on Friday night. They literally had to move the entire GP into a different room. So our Friday night was spent like taking down our booth, moving it to a different location in a different room, and then resetting back up our booth, and then going home for the night. So
for those who are interested, 140 decibels is the pain threshold. At 140 decibels, it will literally hurt your eardrums. It is the sound of a siren right next to your head. 130 decibels is thunder.
I think it was 120 that Ed recorded, or 130, and he was directly above it. He was like at the epicenter.
That's a police siren.
Yeah, he was at the epicenter, and there was like physical vibrations. Like it was just, especially if you're like actually trying to buy or play Magic, and just all day, the entire event.
Yeah, I can't imagine that was very good for playing Magic.
I think the story was that CFB tried to like go all the way up to the mayor or something like that, but like they were union, so they couldn't do anything, and it was...
Oh my god, imagine fighting City Hall. You're just trying to run an event.
Yeah. Credit to CFB where it was due there, but that was...
Bribe a union steward, and oh man.
That was an event.
Yeah. I've been at a number of them where the tournament, this was the big deal back in like 2015 to 2017 when Magic Live events were really blowing up in popularity, and we kept breaking Walter. Yep. Well, before
or
Walter,
WER, I think it was, or something like that.
Yeah, it was Wizards Event Recorder before they created Walter in response to it. The very first GP Vegas, they actually had to have somebody kind of rewrite the program on the fly to get it to take that many people, because it just wasn't made to scale up that big. You just couldn't do it. So they came up with new software. And then, of course, you had the troubleshooting months with the new software. And there were certainly a few tournaments that went down. I mean, people may or may not remember the GP Vegas that went down for so long. Channel Fireball was offering refunds.
Yeah, SCG handled Charlotte really well. I remember they let anybody... They said they had to restart the GP from scratch or something like that. So they were starting round 5 or something, but you still got paired as if you were against like an XO or something like that. But they said if you wanted to drop, SCG would comp you for side events for the rest of the weekend. So SCG bit the bullet on Wizards' head. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that's nice.
I think no. So one GP that can't be topped, though, I don't remember what city it was in, but it was in Europe. There was one GP that caught fire. There was a fire in the kitchen of the convention center, and they had to evacuate the actual convention center because there was a fire. I think that's
all right. Well, that's pretty
rough.
Up there. I believe there was a pro tour back in the day that got delayed due to flooding in Italy. I could be wrong on that, but I know that there was flooding issues at a pro tour at one point.
Good old nostalgia.
Lots of fun stories. Don't you miss traveling for all of this?
I do.
I do too.
That's the sad part.
I do too.
I would do anything to leave my house.
I mean, I did have... I'm sure the first time I have a flight get canceled at 10 p.m. and then I have to get up at 3 a.m. to get on a plane to get back to a GP just to immediately walk in and start working on Saturday afternoon or whatever. Like, I've had that before. That's not very fun. So I'm sure it'll only take one experience like that to ruin it. But in the meantime, I am kind of looking forward to going again.
Pre-pandemic, I was looking at the 2021 schedule going like, there's no good cities. I don't get to travel to anywhere cool. This sucks. I got to go to so many cool cities in 2020 or 2019. And then like my last event was Reno. I was like, yeah, whatever. And like I would drive to a PTQ in Reno right now. I would just full on cross country drive to some garbage event in some worthless city.
And that's why they thought the secret GP was going to be successful.
Yes, they were hedging a lot.
Because of some snarky podcaster saying something hyperbolic.
Well, I mean,
there's
that
some
sentiment
truth to that.
Yeah, I mean,
they were expecting a lot of pent up demand for events.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little unlucky they got delta'd by the Rona. Without that happening over the past month and a half, it's maybe a different scenario. But
I think the bigger delta was the delta between 1600 and 62.
Yep, not quite a 10K or whatever it was. Certainly.
What if 64 people had signed up for the event and it would have been 9 rounds day 1, and then everybody would have made day 2.
There was a GP Oklahoma City in December of 2019.
Yep, I was there.
It was standard. That was the event I did in the Merfolk cosplay, the Aquaman onesie. That was fun. I did coverage and played that event, as a matter of fact, while wearing that.
And you wore shorts.
They wore
basketball shorts. Aquaman's trademark basketball shorts.
I didn't want to go to prison, man.
Also, we could have bought a female version of that costume that the patrons voted for. We did a poll in the Discord. Mm-hmm. They voted for the female Aqua person costume, and Corbin just scammed you all.
And we have 100 fewer patrons now than we did then.
That's not entirely true, but you should go to patreon.com/BSB to correct that, by the way. But yeah, that event had, I think, 70-ish people, 70 to 80, maybe under 100. It was a thing where there was definitely a moment where we were like, oh, is this thing actually going to have more than 64 players or whatever to make? But it did. And then they did a cut. The cut, I think, went down below 64 or something. I don't remember. It was very small. It was on the way down. So, the narrative at that time was, look at the main event attendance for GPs. It's so low.
Yeah, that was the event, those like 3 or 4 months where everyone was crapping on standard. Everyone was thinking, oh my god, Magic Fests are dying. Nobody's going to Magic Fest. And I'm sitting in the middle of the room watching an entire full room of convention center people buy out mystery boosters all day, every day.
Yep.
And it's like,
yep.
Magic Fest go nowhere.
Yep. Your people who sat online and just looked at main event numbers for a year and had a little spreadsheet and thought that they knew everything there was to know about organized play.
Playing the main event at a GP. Imagine that. It's like, hey, I'm in a city and all my friends are here, but I'm going to spend 11 hours playing Magic instead of like doing GP shit. Like, I get that's what they're for, but like, you don't have to be that guy. Let the other people be that guy.
Well, and that's why when events do come back, they're not going to be like that anymore. We've already saw the branding to Magic Fest away from GP, because the GP was just one part of Magic Fest. And when events do come back, they've already talked about how they're going to be focusing on experiences and
they figured out how to charge people to play EDH for no prizes with their own cards.
I mean, that's not wrong. They did figure that out. Yeah. It's a good.
It's like, hey, I just want to play some EDH with my friends. I brought my own deck and everything. We don't need prize. It doesn't need to be sanctioned. They're like, cool, that'll be $75 because we have the tables. The tables are my livelihood.
I get that. I mean,
beforehand, people were just taking over tables and then getting moved all the time, right? And it became such a logistical issue for the organizers of the GP. They created their own demand by not having any space.
You know what's not a logistical issue? The spreadsheets that we have that show all of our breaking bulk picks all year round.
That was jarring, sir. That was 120 decibel jackhammer.
People come to this podcast for the roller coaster segues. That's why they're here.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, breaking bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
All right, I'm going to start things off with breaking bulk here. This is an Amonkhet Black Uncommon.
Lord of the Dead. Or whatever the zombie lord is that just...
Lord of the Accursed? Nope.
The Scarab Nest.
Oh, that's actually good, DJ. It is Nest of Scarabs. I thought I might trick you up with the zombie lord there.
Oh, the card that was so obvious.
Yeah, well,
I mean, wouldn't think you would ever.
It's you say it's obvious. It's under $1. The unexpected thing in Amonkhet is that all of the monuments are worth money. Except for Kefnet's monument, anyway.
I feel like at least one of the monuments, maybe two, have been my.
We've talked about the black and white ones a lot because those are the really good ones.
I feel like we talk about a lot of them a lot because they're all pretty nutty. Even the blue one is not bad.
Yeah, the blue one's the worst, but it's reasonable. But yeah, Nest of Scarabs had a real thing when Hepatra was out around that time. But even still, it's a 50-cent uncommon that you can, have.
There will be another -1/-1.
Yes, there will.
Counter commander
in the next couple years,
and everyone's gonna act. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anessa Scarabs and all the other stuff.
Kolrath Knight, if applicable.
Blowfly Infestation, Kolrath
Yep.
Knight, potentially. Yep, all the stuff from the Hapatra list, basically. And if Red's in the mix and you can play Kolrath Knight, even better. It's going to happen again in the next 2 years, and everyone's going to be like, speculator split, but...
I mean, you're right, though. You're right, though. It's going to happen again sooner or later.
And the first time when Nesta Scarabs was worth nothing, and then it went to like $3-4, everyone was digging them out of the boxes at the LGS. So if it does go up again, it's not going to go up gently. It'll be like, okay, there's no 25-cent copy of this at the LGS. I'm forced to pay $7 on Card Kingdom.
Yeah, especially
so that's how
years
stuff
later.
spiked super hard the second time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When just all the cheap copies get ferreted out by people trying to buy list them when they're buy listing for quadruple you can find them for in the LGS. So once all that work's done, it's harder to secure cheap copies, and you just have to pay retail, and that's a thing that happens. So we call those second spikes because we're very clever. And second spikes are more profound for that reason, because that you are forced to pay retail.
All right, I have a rare from Dominaria.
Get out of
it's
here.
Multicolored, which narrows it down to like 3 cards or something like that.
Primeval's Glorious Rebirth.
Yep. It's not a particularly difficult guess.
Picked that one last night.
Yeah, this card is roughly $1.50 market price. I pull them out of my bulk rares all the time when people send me bulk rares through the mail, and it's just a very, very good one. It's just you consistently sell this. Dominaria is one of the best-selling Magic sets of all time, and it does a very powerful, cool thing that is just very attractive to new players. So eventually this one will creep up to probably $3 if it's not reprinted. It might get reprinted. It seems a little powerful and niche for a commander deck precon, but we'll see. It's just definitely a card that you can like get at quarters or whatever. Like, it's just a card you'll find in the 10-cent or quarter bin somewhere.
Yep. Yeah, Dominaria, by the way, is a really nice set for picks.
Yes.
Not just, like, you commented on comments, it's, hit or miss. You got Rat Colony, Tatyova's worth $1 billion. But stuff you definitely find in bulk is, like, Final Parting. It's a 5-mana weird tutor in black, but that card's over $1, and you just find those all the time. Merfolk Trickster is over $1. Song of Freyalise.
The Dominaria Teferi emblem is, like, $2 or something like that. Like, there's like Damping Sphere. There's like I think the Knight from like Josu is worth money. There's a lot of just like
it is actually.
There's a lot of like just weird stuff in that set. Like Merfolk Trickster, Sylvan Awakening's another one I find in Dominaria bulk all the time, where people think it's trash because it's not a great card, but like it's just it does what you need it to.
People are still playing Explosive Vegetation in their ADH decks, like.
Well, Sylvan Awakening's not a ramp spell. It's the kill spell. It's the living lands.
It combos with Jeskai Ascendancy, I believe, is its most prevalent.
Oh
usage.
Yeah, what was I don't know what I was thinking. Grow from the Ashes or some shit, probably.
Yeah, Grow from the Ashes.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was black uncommon Knight, so I have a black uncommon also.
Mine was a gold rare. What?
Yeah, you're an idiot. You didn't do Black Uncommon Knight correctly at all.
What set is yours from?
Ravnica Allegiance.
It's a Black Uncommon from Ravnica Allegiance. I played the heck out of that set. Let me think.
Corbin, that's all accurate information, but you didn't guess any of that. I told you that.
Creeping Chill was GRN, right?
Yes. This was the Orzhov
Is
set.
it Price of Fame? Is it like the removal spell?
It is not a spell. It is a creature. And I don't want to hear in the comments about how creatures are spells. Shut up with that.
RNA Black Uncommon.
I don't actually know this one offhand.
Boy, you guys suck at this game. What about you, DJ?
It's not coming to me. I'll probably just do a forehead slap when you say it, but what do we got?
Vindictive Vampire.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, just Blood Artist Deed thing.
Yep.
I didn't realize that was a pick, actually. It's good to know.
It's like $1.50 retail, so...
I was trying to think if there was any Blood Artist effects in that set, but I just couldn't think of them. Yep. And it's a vampire, which is always relevant.
Yeah. I was completely unaware of this one being a pick, actually. Yeah, this card has has shot up this year. So that's a great pick.
Yeah,
actually.
like
I mean, it's over 10,000 decks on ADH Rec, which like doesn't really mean anything, but it also doesn't not. Like 10,000 is a good place to
Falkenrath
start.
Noble is like the only one of these that's not worth money. They're any like consistent death trigger drain or even just value engine. Obviously, the treasure one's the big one right now, the Pitiless Plunder. But like Cruel Celebrant's another example of this, where it's just death drain or Zavi stuff, and like they're all worth money. Like just always pick. You don't really find Blood Artists.
Bastion and Remembrance, that was a card I said you're gonna get in Draft Chaff, and it's already
like
$2.
you don't really find Blood Artist itself in bulk anymore, but you absolutely will find the rest of these.
What's interesting?
Noble's trash.
Yeah, it's because it's target player.
That's
For what it's worth, Falkenrath Noble has actually climbed up to 50 cents from like a quarter a couple years ago, like, which again means basically nothing, but it just goes to show that without a reprint, you know,
it was in Jumpstart.
I mean, Falkenrath Noble is like 4 mana and it's target player, which is like not great.
Yeah, and it's been without a reprint.
Corbin's saying its price has doubled over the last year despite being in Jumpstart.
And if it wasn't in a bunch of these reprints, it would have been worth $1 or $2, right? This has been reprinted. This has been printed 5 different times now.
Two of those times were in the year 2017 also.
Yeah, so that's interesting. You brought it. I would have never looked that card up if you hadn't brought it up like that.
Yeah,
I've been passing over these in bulk, and it's interesting to know.
I had stopped picking this a while ago, but I got to add it back into the roster.
Yeah, I did. I stopped picking it too. Well, that kind of leads into what we want to talk about next here on this episode, which is how do you miss spiking cards? We've had some discussion in the Discord about this that you can have access to for just $1 a month at patreon.com/BSB. But we want to talk about how we miss cards. You know, famously, we have the specs we've all gone in on and didn't work out. I found my Splinter Frights the other day. But not just, you know, how do you, what have we missed on, but in general, how do you miss a spiking card? You know, there's so many cards out there. You can't just look at every single card's price every day. And you can get close by following our sponsor MTG Stocks and looking at the interests and looking at those lists to see what's gone up 5% in the past week, see what's gone up 1% in the past week, up to, you know, any larger amounts. And you can try to get ahead of it. But at the end of the day, no one can catch anything. So let's talk about the different ways in which you actually will miss out on a spike on a card and how you can try to guard against that.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's 3 specific channels, I guess, that are the best way to access information about how to get spikes. And if a card goes up, it happened for one of these 3 reasons, and if you didn't get it, it's because you didn't do one of these 3 things. The first is just paying attention to information that comes through the information sphere, the internet, whatever you want to, whatever sort of like globular zeitgeist kind of thing. Like you just articles, podcasts, deck lists, data from MTGO, or all that stuff just conglomerated. Like you just need to keep your finger on the pulse of the metagame, or articles, or even just things that are popular just by content creators specifically, right? Like you can pay attention, you can watch game nights, and that's like there will be cards that spike just based on what's on game nights. So it's just paying attention is the first one. Just it's impossible to pay attention to everything because you might be a legacy player, you might be a modern player, you might be a commander player. You can't pay attention to all the possible streams of information, but you can do your best and just sort of glean what's available. The second one is a lot shorter. It's just don't sell your reserve list cards because they'll go up over time. That's it. That's the tweet. And the third one is, unfortunately, there are some times that like people get access to information they shouldn't have, and then they make decisions based on that, and then card prices will go up before that the rest of the actual information that you're supposed to pay attention to is revealed. Like I know like scrying sheets went up 600% like weeks or months before snow cover lands were announced in MH1, and that's just sort of a feels bad that information gets leaked that shouldn't. But again, you can still pay attention to that and then make decisions based on that. It's going to be less accurate because you're dealing with a rumor that could or cannot be true. Like you could see scrying sheets go up and then say, oh, I should go buy whatever other snow card, the dumb dragon from Cold Snap. I don't know. Like, you could be right about or wrong about that one, but yeah, it's just paying attention. Don't sell your reserve list cards, and cheat your way into Wizards Insider Trading Network.
Well, that's one option. Well, let's talk a little bit about each of those, breaking it down. I want to actually start with the reserve list because that's an easier one. This doesn't necessarily just go for reserve list cards, but go look at the price on unlimited cards recently. Unlimited has really grown, whereas before it was kind of this also ran to revised. And look, we can get into whether or not we're going to see revised eventually follow the same suit. I don't think so. Well, but unlimited's gone up a bunch.
Like, there's about as much unlimited as there is beta versus, it's closer to the amount of beta than the amount of revised.
Yeah, so when it comes to, don't sell your reserve list cards, I would say that sometimes that also just goes for old stuff, depending on how you're looking at it, right? But the oldest stuff is the stuff that's going to spike the hardest just due to supply issues, right? So something like Chain of Smog might even be an example where if that card was from a newer set, it may not have gone quite as crazy as it did when, whatever the mechanic was got spoiled that broke it. So in general, look, I mean, it's a spectrum. You can sell your cards, flip them, don't have them anymore, or you can keep everything in the hopes that one day it goes up. But the old stuff like that, reserve list specifically, that stuff just has only ever gone one direction since it was
trash revised list or reserve list cards either. I was like putting Morinfen and Gallow Braid in instant collections because they weren't worth a dime, and now they're like $6, and I was like,
so
okay, I guess anything on the reserve list, even if it's like straight dookie, it's on the reserve list now. And like, if you tell somebody with crypto money, is like, what do I buy? Google reserved list.
So Michael Caffrey had a really good post in a Discord that I'm part of, where he said the reserve list can be summarized into 3 Magic cards: Black Lotus, Replenish, and Dominating Lycid. They're
Lycid,
Lycid, whatever. I don't know. Like, I'm not a Lycidologist. Like, what do you want from me?
I understand.
But like, every single card on the reserve list falls into one of those 3 channels where it's either just like this ultimate mega blue chip staple, which is obviously Lotus, Power 9. Gaia's Cradle is sort of one of the only card that like floats the line between the two. Of I would put Gaia's Cradle more in the Black Lotus category than the Replenish category. Replenish is obviously the sort of like mid-range reserve list staples that people will play and actually pick up for their commander decks, where it's like, oh, I need a Sarah's Sanctum, or oh, I need just this. It's like
$7,500, $75 or 75 cents.
Kind of. Dominating Lycid is currently like $10 or whatever, but the point still stands in that it is mostly unplayable, low volume, low velocity, just card that shouldn't be $10 but sits there because you're trying to sell it to somebody who thinks it'll be $20.
Who's trying to bulk out a card that they're never going to print more of?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to put it. Okay, well, let's talk about the beginning, about paying attention. We talk about how there's only so much you can do to pay attention. And, we use MTG stocks here to keep an eye on that stuff. Watching content creators is part of it. But at the end of the day, you also just have to realize that you're going to miss cards. We miss cards all the time that spike because no one can keep up with everything, and all kinds of stuff flies under the radar or you don't notice it. Especially, if you're plugged into one format over the other. If you're plugged into Modern, you're going to miss all the stuff going on with Commander. And if you're plugged in EDH and you're on EDH Rec every day, well, that's great, but you may have missed, the Hammer Time Modern deck pushing some cards up, that sort of thing. So you just kind of pick your poisons, maybe not the right word, but choose your battles, I would say.
No, Corbin, it's pick your vaccine.
You want to pick your vaccine. The one note I will add on while we're talking about that topic is that you should keep an eye out specifically. DJ mentioned, following deck lists, and obviously we don't have tournaments at this point, paper tournaments and so on, but we are seeing prices move based on what's happening online. A lot of people out there either playing locally or getting prepared for the future, etc. But if there's ever a budget deck that pops up, the budget decks will never stay budget for long because you'll have a bunch of people make a run on the budget deck. And the way it typically works out is that there will be a run on that budget deck until it is no longer budget. unless it's like actually one of the best decks in the format. But if it's just a good playable budget deck, you'll see a run on it until that first card in it really spikes to make it not a budget deck anymore. It's like saying, oh, Lantern Control, all your pieces are cheap, but your Mox Opals are $80, or whatever the case was several years ago. It's that sort of thing. So we've seen that with like the Hammer Time decks, and Stoneforges in that, and some of the precursors to that. We used to see it a bunch with Affinity, where you'd have your Glimmer Voids would be $20 or whatever. So that's just something to keep in mind there, is that keep it a special eye on budget stuff, and then figure out what the biggest pressure point of that deck is as we, head back into, some competitive paper events in the future.
I miss a lot of stuff by not caring about it because it's outside of the I have a finite amount of money to spend on specs and, product and stuff like that. I'm limited by how much money I can recoup because I'm really lazy about selling stuff. But, for the most part, I have gotten so specialized at noticing when old stuff is going to go up as a result of new EDH decks.
Yeah.
Which nets me 5 to 10 really solid quintuple your money sort of specs every couple of months. So when that happens, because that is so repeatable and so it's not easy, but like I'm so good at it after doing it for like 6 years every week, basically, I'm going to miss a bunch of people ask me about modern cards on Twitter. I'm like, don't care. And that's not me being shitty at finance. That's me being way better at finance because I stopped paying attention to stuff I don't understand. So like, yeah, you can miss stuff just because you don't care. EDH players, my favorite EDH tweets are like, when did this become $10? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, if it's not in a deck you use, great, I could see that. But like not knowing any prices at all, but still like having to buy cards for decks is kind of funny to me. But at the same time, like I kind of feel that way. Is like, what? When did Modern do this? Or when did... Name a format that affects prices that isn't EDH in year 2K21. You can't do it. But when there are paper tournaments again, stuff is going to go up and I'm going to miss it. And I don't care because it's just noise to me. I could figure some of that stuff out, and my hit rate's going to be lower. And also I'm consuming a lot of my time with stuff I, have to learn versus just focusing on what I'm good at. So just focus on what you're good at. You're going to miss some stuff, but like missing a card going up doesn't take money out of your wallet unless you needed it. And if you needed it, why don't you just buy it? So
I think that's really, really accurate. I tried to do the same. I sort of learned the same lesson a few years ago during the whole crypto boom, where I was like, I'm good at finance. I'm good at numbers and buying and selling and flipping and paying attention to this stuff. I'll try this. This is all of this is with like a disclaimer of like before being aware of like how actually miserable it is and how shitty it is for the environment, et cetera, et cetera. All the various bullet points. But
we're gonna get brigaded.
That's fine.
So
That's interaction, baby. Bring on the downvotes. Bring it on.
He's right. He's right.
But I was like, oh, I'll get into this. I'm pretty good at it. And then I was just like, I don't want to spend 20 hours to learn this when I could spend that time on Magic cards and continue to do Magic cards, and also I enjoy it more. I'm not gonna spend 40 hours to learn the legacy metagame just so I can learn what cards to buy for it. No, I'm going to continue to do the thing I would do best, which is like logistics and figuring out how to streamline my organization and process and buy collections and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I'm just going to do the thing that I'm good at and that I enjoy. And that's absolutely true. You should do the same.
Yeah. I'll say that I think there's maybe another area in which maybe we do not as good of a job as we could do. And that's sort of the staple area, because a lot of times when we do a set review, we say, oh, the card's going to come down in price, because it is. And I think a lot of times we would temper that with good cards with, hey, when this gets cheap in 3 months, buy it. But I think it is sometimes hard to just look at a card that's say $3 or $4 in standard. It's a commander card, and just kind of miss when that card has gone from $3 to $4 to $10, because that's a big jump. But to us, it's like, oh yeah, it's always a pick. Of course it's gone up. But at the same time, and we're looking for stuff that moves more with sort of new information, or is more likely to make a jump. And a lot of times just those slow gainers can be missed because you think, oh, well, is it about to top out? Is it going to get reprinted? This graph just goes slow. But the reality is a lot of those cards don't. And then they end up going from $3 to $5 when we're like, oh, yeah, I know, to now it's a $15 card or whatever. So I think that's an area that, I'm going to try to keep a little better eye out as a result of this conversation. But that is also, just don't take stuff for granted. To take for granted that a card's always going to be X dollars because of whatever, right? I think that there's something there. But again, it just comes down to your time and your bandwidth, because now you're not just checking on the stuff that's moving as a result of recent news. You're checking every staple just to see what the graph looks like. And there's no substitute for just the time of spent looking at this stuff. And there's 30,000 plus Magic cards. And with the way EDH and the reserved list and everything works, you're going to have cards from that entire span moving up and down, not just one segment of it. So you really do just have to choose your battles. And speaking of, though, I feel like this curves perfectly into pick of the week, because I have a card that falls into one of those staple areas that we don't, want to forget about.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
And that's Brass's Bounty. I don't know if you all remember this card, but it is a 7-mana sorcery from Rouse of Ixalan. For each land you control, you get a treasure token. Well, we saw this card go up to $4 just naturally. It was then reprinted in C21, so very recently, and now it's under $2 as a result. And look, it seems like treasure is a thing that they're pushing more and more, not just limited to a set. Brass's Bounty is rampant red.
There's gonna be no more treasure after 2021.
Maybe.
They're like, it's evergreen.
Yeah.
Just like Skull.
And they're like, hey,
just like Skull.
Yeah.
Some Hasbro guy whose kid plays Legends of Runeterra is taking over, and he's decided no more treasure.
Well, in that case, Brass's Bounty will definitely be worth money because it's not going to get reprinted. Anyways, Brass's Bounty at $1.50 seems like a slam dunk over the next couple of years.
Yeah, you did it, Corbin.
I did. What do you got?
Did it. Well, I think you're 100% wrong. Treasure's not going to get any support moving forward. I think speculating on the basis of cards that deal with treasure tokens is dumb, which is why when you make a treasure token, what if you made a clue or a food or something useful using your Academy Manufactor, which is under $3?
This card's nuts.
Which that's incorrect.
Yeah, Academy Manufacturer.
Tireless Provisioner costs as much as this card, so
yeah,
it's not correct. I think that's a fine price for Tireless Provisioner, but I think that's a poor price for Academy Manufactor. Once people realize that, like, I don't know, like the mythics in Modern Horizons 2 are they're sort of weird. If people don't play Modern, the value from these boxes has got to come from somewhere. I think it's a pretty nutty set. I think people are going to be like, when did Liquid Metal Torque become $2? People are going to just tweet all kind of dumb shit like that. And it's just look at the set. Go to EDH Rec and look at Modern Horizons 2 and look at how the stuff is ranked based on how much is played in EDH. Some of these cards are pretty nutty, and they're pretty cheap right now just because you don't need Sanctum Weaver to be worth $11 to sell boosters of this set. People just busted them open because it's like, you could have a $500, foil force of negation or some shit like that, right? So
Ragavan.
Raggedy Vaggedy. So we don't need a Academy Manufactor to be worth more than like $250 right now, but there's like the extended version for like a little bit more, which I like way better, and that's still under $5. Like the promo pre-release foil is under $5. Every version of this card is so juicy looking and so cheap, and like Prosper is running around right now. This is good in Lonus. It's good in, like, people are like playing this in Modern on Arena. Academy Manufactor is a real card, and it's not going to be under $5 for long.
I like it. So I guess I'll pick out the finish out the trifecta here. This is a card that is very much my brand of in the necrotic.
It's a treasure token.
That's my breaking bulk. It's in the same vein as like Necrotic Ooze or Restore Balance or Rooftop Storm. It is one of these 10 to 50 cent cards, close to $1, that has gone unnoticed for close to God, this card's a decade old at this point. That's crazy. But it's something that will eventually get played on some sort of content creator stream or YouTube video, and people will go crazy. And the reason I say that is because it did get played on a content creator video, and I'm like, this is gonna be popular soon. That is Slag Fiend. I think I'm saying that right. It is Slag Fiend. Yep.
Sure.
The new Phyrexian construct is a 1-mana creature for 1 red. Power toughness equal to the number of all artifacts in all graveyards. Mishra's Bauble has been a card for a while, but this is just, it's artifact lands are in Modern now, and I can very much see Saffron Olive or some other content creator brewing with this, and then a bunch of people buy it because it's from New Phyrexia, which was 10 years ago, and it has no other reprints.
We're doing this podcast,
and
when New Phyrexia was out.
somebody will break this, somebody won't break it, but people will want to build it. And this is very much a penny stock that you can find. If you can find just like a brick of them for 50 cents a piece, I think that's worth a coin flip. I think that is very much worth your gamble.
I don't know if I would play a 1-mana 15/15 in EDH necessarily.
I'll say that
what does it do? Is like, it's a 15/15. Okay. What does it do besides get jumped?
Fling it at everybody.
Like, I need my cards to do things. Yeah,
you could thud it. I like this pick though, DJ, because it's a 1-mana card. So you're absolutely right about this having an opportunity in Modern. I mean, is this card ever going to be better than like Dragon Rage Channeler or Monastery Swiftspear or whatever?
If
Probably
you
not.
Traumatize yourself, it could be.
But it doesn't have to be, because there are like you said, it doesn't
How is there
take
no
much.
Eggs build that like you just Mishra's Bauble, Wayfarer's Bauble.
Well, you didn't play a lot of red in those decks, but I mean, you're like, this is kind of the ideal, like DJ said, grab a brick of them spec, because you get it very, very cheap. It's old. It's got the stats in that it costs 1 mana, so it actually has the ability to pop up in a competitive format, which is what would really drive the price on it. So yeah, and if not, you get to spend $10 and keep a bunch of them in the corner to remind you, like my Spinner Frights do. But this has got a real
like you list these on TCG
to have a good weekend and beat $5.
Yeah, you list these on TCG
yeah.
eBay at like, you can even do this preemptively. This is a strategy I've liked a lot from over the years, where you decide the price you want to get out already, and then when the spike happens, you don't have to list them because they're already there.
Yeah,
they're already listed, and
they're just sitting at $2.50.
So once it goes to 5, if your copies are at $4.49 or whatever, and you have 36 of them listed, people will start buying play sets of them, and then that's where you get to just take the money to the bank.
Yeah. And the great
you don't
thing
have
is
to scramble to list them in response to the spike, and
right.
You're the first that sell. Once all the cheap stuff sells, you're the first person to get out of a brick of them real fast.
Right. You're ahead of the curve. You're not waiting for yours to arrive so that you can then list them with confidence. And the thing is, it only takes selling one playset of a card with that kind of profile to make up for your initial. And go buy 50 of these. It's going to cost you, $20 or whatever. Sell a playset at $5. You're there. It's very easy to make your money back on specs like this.
So my final pick of the week is become a patron at patreon.com/BSB. Has anyone noticed I've been drinking out of a tulip glass this episode? Ooh, we got new glassware. You can't get this glassware until we do another run of it, which we might do because they've been very popular, but you can get our next perk. We've
got other glasses. We've got
all kind of stuff.
We've done water bottles in the past. We, of course, got the dice bag with the dice. We've got the ultra sleeves.
Get a dice bag. What the hell? You guys didn't get
I didn't get a dice bag either, Jason. You're not alone.
Who was in charge of sending out the dice bags? Just kidding, I know. I know.
Must have been me if I got one and you guys didn't.
Yeah, it's the one guy who has one. But they're not for us. They're for our patrons. You go to patreon.com/BSB, and you can hear why this episode was around 50 minutes, because there was a lot of dicking around that ended up in after hours. True. And if you're like, hey, I don't want to give you idiots $20 a month, that's more than I pay for Hulu without commercials, because I'm not an idiot. I get Hulu without commercials, and that's $20 a month is more than I pay for Hulu to watch Archer. Remember Archer? Wasn't it funny that they were all in ISIS? Anyway, if you don't want to give us that much money, you can give us $1 a month, which is 20 or 25 cents an episode. That is nothing, but that gives you access to our Discord, where you can meet other people who are enthusiastic about this podcast, and they're like, "Wow, these guys are super weird."
We will validate. Validate your parasocial relationship for pennies.
For money. Yeah, all these people
For
talking
pennies.
about how bad parasocial relationships are on Twitter is like, what about money though?
Ours is the cheapest. You get 3. You get 3 parasocial relationships for less than $1.
True.
That's a steal. That's more than
8 or 9 cents an episode.
Like, cancel your 3 VTuber subscriptions on Twitch and get after it.
And give us your Twitch Prime every month, baby. Go to twitch.tv/Brainstorm
So,
Brewery.
hidden tip, right as the episode closes out, there's a cool little hidden button at the bottom of this YouTube video. If you click it, it turns gray. That's super cool. It changes color. That's like wild. It's the subscribe button. Hit it. Whoa. Hit it. Button.
See you next week, everybody.
This got real pitchy.